see.
Hey there, folks. Weird, like being on camera. Fuck that. I'm always gonna be jittery. Especially in front of the camera. I get jittery behind the camera.
We up in this jank now. How we got right. The one and only McSquint.
Yep.
Y'all don't know.
Yep.
The man, the mythological, you know what I'm saying, monster that y'all thought didn't exist.
The Phantom. McSquint, Orban Clary, aka Obone McSquinty, aka McSquint. Really, you can call me whatever you want, really, just don't call me asshole and I'm straight. That's about it. But yeah, I'm 1/3 owner, you know, Can't Get Right Productions. Me, Quick Switch, we all, you know, equal owners of it. We've been doing it for as long as, you know, forever. Like I've known Quick and Switch for what, 11 years or now, 12 years? And we've been doing this video shit since like 2016. Started off, you know, Mind of a Psycho video. That was the first one we ever shot. We didn't know shit about shit. It was just out there raw dogging everything, just hoping it worked. Didn't know how to edit, didn't know how to light, didn't know how to anything. I didn't know what a f-stop was, a t-stop. I didn't know any of that stuff then. But you know, we made it work and video came out good. Really ain't nothing I would change about it, except for, you know, maybe if I could have lit stuff a little bit better back then, but that's about it. But yeah, that's me. I'm the guy you don't see. My nickname, Obone McSquinty, came from, like, it's two-parted. So the first part, Obone, that came from like my homies way back in the day. You know, just something short for Orban. They used to call me O, Big O, and then Obone, and then that kind of stuck with me. And then the McSquinty part of it, that I kind of put that on myself. Me and Skeeter, or Matt, were playing a video game one day, and it was like a hockey game or something. We came up with this team. It was called the Fist City Warriors, you know. We made our characters. And my character, I didn't want to just make him my name, so I gave him my nickname, which was Obone, and I wanted to give him my last name. So I just was thinking, you know, what could it be? And then so like I'm of Irish descent, so that's the mix part of it. And then, you know, I got little squinty eyes, so that's the squinty part of it. So then I kind of just married it all together, and it's all Obone McSquinty now. Originally, I was born in Tampa, Florida. Didn't really know much about it. We moved up here when I was like 9 months old. You know, really the south side of Richmond is where I grew up at, until I was probably like 13 or something like that. Then we started moving farther and farther down south, like Jeff Davis. I've actually, for about probably a year of my life, or maybe 2 years or something like that, is the longest that I've ever lived off of Jeff Davis Highway. For the rest of my years, you know, I'm 35 now, so for 32, 33 years, I was like within a half a mile of Jeff Davis for my entire life. Any house I went to was straight up and down the pipe. The way it happened was, I used to live out in the country in the middle of nowhere, literally the middle of the sticks. All Amish neighbors and everything like that, people riding horses and buggies and shit. And then so I wanted to come back to Richmond and got a job. And then my homie, you know, was looking for a place in Richmond. My homie Aaron let me stay with him, rest in peace. Moved in with Aaron, lived there for a little bit, you know, a couple months or something like that. Me, Aaron, and then Kevin was living there. We used to play music all the time. And so we'd be up in Kevin's room jamming out, you know, making just like a jam band, garage band stuff, you know, just playing around. And one day, Aaron was like, "Man, you got to meet the neighbors. They, you know, there's these singers, they rap, real good people." And so one day we just, you know, Aaron introduced us, and we like hit it off. I mean, quick switch, they're the homies. So like, I knew if Aaron was down with them that they were good people because he was good people. So, you know, just, you know, met them or whatever. And then I learned later, like, you know, probably like 2 years later, that when we used to be up there jamming and shit, that before we met, they would be on their front porch listening to us rapping and shit. And then so like, and then, you know, once we actually met, they'd come up to the jam sessions and shit, and then we'd come to the recording sessions with them, kind of back and forth, you know, just kind of homies and shit, kicking it, you know, as neighbors, you know, just fucking having a good time, partying and shit. No, I'm not a rapper at all. I can write rhymes, like I don't say I write raps or anything like that. I'll write rhymes, and sometimes they'll go to a beat, sometimes they won't, but like I don't spit anything or like try to rap or do any of that.
Spit that J for us. I'm sorry. I know I ain't supposed to be talking. Spit something.
Nah. Yeah, no, like I've wrote like a couple like 16s and shit like that, but like that's just, you know, I'm around Quick and Switch all the time. They got everybody over on the sessions and shit. Like before I even met them, I used to write rhymes and stuff all the time. So like, you know, I'd sit down and I might write something that nobody's ever gonna hear ever, you know, but like I might and actually some of it y'all have heard through Quick and Switch, but me spitting something, you'll never hear that ever.
Which song was that?
And We Go, and I like the way that she likes the way that yeah.
Shout out TG.
Yeah, TG, what's up? Started filming probably around 2013-ish or something like that. So like growing up, I always had like, once I could get a job and buy my own phone, like I always had a camera phone. That way I could just take pictures and stuff like that. And then, so I took pictures all the time with my phone, and then I eventually got a 35mm like film camera. I took pictures with that for a while. You know, I got okay with that, learning like how to expose and all that. But really wasn't into it. Kind of fell out of it a little bit and just went back to like digital pictures on my phone, you know. So I would always buy a phone with a good camera on it. So, you know, phone for a long time. And then, you know, I met Quick and Switch. We started doing music videos. Like even before I had my camera I have now, or my first camera, I was filming with a group that Quick and Switch were with my phone, and I just buy like attachments and stuff and lenses to put on the phone to make it look like a wide angle or a telephoto or something like that. And then I would just, you know, shoot my phone because it would shoot in 4K, so we shoot, you know, on the phone. And then I finally went ahead and, you know, enjoyed it enough that I bought a camera. And my first camera was my GH2, which is actually right here. It just wasn't much, but if you know anything about like video recording and everything, this thing is a little beast as far as 1080p, like 30 frames per second. You know, you can go 24 frames per second, but this here allowed me to start learning like lenses and focal lengths and then like apertures and stuff like that, as well as, you know, camera settings, which on the phone you have, you know, your ISO and stuff like that, but most of the time I was just shooting in auto on the phone. But with this, it really allowed me to like really learn what each setting meant, and then like how to use it and how to make things look different with the settings. And then once I kind of graduated from this, I got my GH5, which came out in like 2016 or something like that. I got it early, like 2017, that's the camera right there now. That was my kind of middle camera. That camera was the one that I really learned everything I learned on. Really started going in with like cinema lenses and like learning about like lens breathing and, you know, really going in as far as settings and how to operate a camera. And then, you know, after my GH5, I got my BGH1, which is more of like a cinema style camera. And it's kind of rigged out here. It's kind of a small rig, but really the camera itself is just this little brick in the middle right here, and then everything else is attached to it. But this allows me to get more of a cinematic look and more of like to be more deliberate with how I'm using the camera. A lot of people, you know, this is Micro Four Thirds. I've been in the Micro Four Thirds system for a long time now, and a lot of people really don't like Micro Four Thirds, or they'll say Micro Four Thirds is dead. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to light things and you know about like depth of field and you know how to do a little bit of math to get the right focal lengths and stuff, you can make one of these Micro Four Thirds cameras look like a red in certain situations. Now you get into some real low light, like you're at a run and gun concert and there's like no house lights, you're gonna want that red or like that full frame camera. But if you're doing stuff kind of like we are, where we're set it up and we're doing a lot of pre-production and we got lights and we got all this stuff, you can use a Micro Four Thirds camera and still get a really good product. That's, I mean, even the GH5 and the BGH1, both are Netflix approved cameras. So as far as file format and size, like they would have no quarrels with us shooting something on these cameras and then submitting it to them. Now the story has to be good, and you know, the other aspects of the video has to be good. But as far as getting something onto Netflix, like these cameras provide that format that, you know, they're looking for. My favorite video that we have shot is probably, so it's probably one that people haven't seen a whole lot, and it's actually one that I'm in. It's not on one of our music videos or anything like that, but it's actually, this was kind of like a real run and gun type thing. We just kind of came up with it like in the moment. Quick was actually operating the camera on that one. And what it was is just a promotional video that we had done for somebody that I wanted to do kind of like a home invasion, where you think it's a home invasion that's happening, but by the end of the video, it's actually not what's going on. It's like, haha, like you thought some serious shit was going down, but it wasn't really. And so that video is one of my favorite ones that I've ever shot, because I think it looks real good. Quick did a really good job as far as filming it. And then, you know, it's like I'm on camera, which is rare. So, you know, I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of like a quick video. It didn't take us a long time to shoot it or anything like that. And, you know, came together pretty quick in the editing and post-production and stuff. But you know, that was good. I mean, obviously, you know, it was extremely fun shooting, you know, Depression, because we had so many people involved in that and supporting us like while we were trying to do that. That video took us like months of planning to actually figure out. We had to get, like, that was right at the time we were getting the LLC. We had to get, you know, insurance. You know, we rented out the Bird Theater, so we had to get insurance for the Bird Theater. We had to rent the Bird Theater out. We used a local bar up in Richmond on Broad Street. It's called the 4 Cyber Cafe. We, you know, filmed part of it in that venue, and which, you know, thank you guys for letting us do that. And really, that was like me, kind of like the culmination of my abilities up to that point, as far as we got this big theater and now we got to light everything, because in that theater, the house lights, when you're sitting in the seat watching something there, is way different than a camera watching something there. You need a lot more light for the camera. So trying to figure out how to light everything to, you know, make it look like a theater but still be bright enough to come through on the cameras. That was a challenge that we had to overcome, and that was, you know, fun overcoming that. Obviously, like, I'm in part of that video. I'm the little ticket booth guy. You know, I kick ankles out the show. but you know, that part was fun or whatever. But really just having all the people together for that one, and just seeing the support, like just people coming out, like we didn't pay anybody to be in that video. Like people coming out, like Lion, he came out, he was our like MC on the stage, you know, introducing everybody. He was like a blast to shoot with. You know, Quick Switch section, they all killed it on their parts. And then all the people that came as extras, like we really just appreciated, you know, that's family, that's friends, and that's family and friends showing that they actually support what you're doing, because there's no monetary gain from that for them, except like there's no gain except for seeing us do the thing that we love. And that, you know, is that type of support is, you know, it's immeasurable. It's like you can't put a money number on that. That type of support really just like uplifts you and allows you to be like, okay, maybe this is something that we can like actually do. And you know, that just kind of puts like some wind in your sails. Producing videos is harder than you think it is. If you want to do it at a high production level, shooting just like your like literally you can grab a phone, and the way it works is if you put a camera on a subject that people care about, it does not matter what type of camera you have. As long as the subject matter is something that people can get behind, they will get behind it. Now, if you want to do it at a production level, you want to do it at a Marvel level, you want to go up to Universal level, you know, MGM, like you want to go up to these big production studios and do it at that level, it takes months and months and years of work to just get something to happen. The amount of people that you have to have in a production of that like magnitude is, you know, sometimes hundreds of people. Like a lot of people skip it or they turn the movie off. But next time you watch a movie, just watch the credits and just think about, for that production to have happened, all of those people had to be organized and in unison and on the same track. And to get that many people on the same track is pretty difficult. I mean, unless you're, you know, Universal, MGM, you got fat stacks to throw at people. You know, people are motivated by money. But if you're trying to get it like us, how we're trying to do it, really just out the mud, as they say, it's really difficult, because just trying to get that many people on the same page to have the same goal without trying to put their personal agenda in front of the team goal is extremely difficult to happen. And then, but shooting the videos, like once you make a production, a skit, a show, episode, a music video, and you get it done and you put it out there and then it's done and people can see it and you're not working on it anymore, it's like, it's an awesome feeling. You just get like a feeling like almost like a weight is lifted off of your shoulders, because you know you're done with that and you can move to the next thing now. But also a feeling of like pride and like, you know, like a woodworker that makes a table and he's going to sell it to somebody to put in their house, how he feels that like that table is going to last for years. They can eat dinner on that table for years. That's how we feel about the videos when we put them out. Like, look, hopefully these videos can stand on their own for years to come, and eventually we can get to the point where our production level is high enough that that's the truth. Like, we can put a video out and it can kind of stand the test of time. Now, with the way things work, you know, fads and traditions and stuff, things kind of shift, so some things kind of fall off and you can't really tell what's going to happen. But everybody's hope, you know, is to stand the test of time and be relevant even after you're gone. Yeah, so like basic camera settings. So there's, all right, so settings, you have multiple places that you have settings at. So you have your camera settings itself, you have like your lens settings. Like this lens here is just a little small autofocus lens I've been messing with. But so some of your basic camera settings, a lot of people, if you've ever used a camera, you'll kind of know what these are. But first one is your ISO, and that's going to be how much light you're trying to receive, like get onto the sensor of the camera. So like the higher ISO means that you're trying to get more light. A lower ISO means you're trying to get less light in it. It's kind of tricky with ISO based on like really depending on what type of camera you have. Smaller cameras like this one, Micro Four Thirds, you have to shoot a little bit higher ISOs because you're not getting as much light as the big full frame cameras. So what that'll do is that'll introduce kind of like what they call noise, or kind of like speckles in the shot, kind of like make it kind of grainy. And what that grain is actually microwave background radiation from the Big Bang. So you're picking up just really subtle light changes that you can't see with your eye, but a sensor on a camera that's getting hit with those photons can see it. So really the ISO is kind of tricky. Most cameras have like a native ISO, and that is what is going to look kind of the best on that camera. You're not going to have as much grain. Your blacks in the shot are going to be real nice and black, and they're not going to have like noise and stuff in them. Some cameras, cinema cameras and stuff will have what they call a dual native ISO, which means they'll have like a base ISO. Like my camera here has a base ISO of 800. And then, so that's kind of where it looks good. But then once you get up into the upper ranges, it has a second ISO at 2000, which it kind of cleans the image up again. And you can really, like the blacks start to look real black again. But then, if you go above 2000, you start introducing some of that noise in there. Another setting is white balance, which white balance didn't used to be a thing with old film cameras and stuff like that. You couldn't really set a white balance, and the reason you didn't have to do that is because you weren't using an electronic sensor to capture the image. So what happens with these electronic sensors is there's a bunch of little tiny pixels on the sensor, kind of like a screen. And what each of those little sensors does is it picks the light up coming into it. So the old cameras, they were just shooting right onto the film through a lens. So they didn't have like a white balance. They couldn't adjust and calibrate each of those little pixels to make white look white if you wanted to. So with white balance, you can do, it ranges, from like 2700, you can go 2500. I mean, I'm sure a lot of cameras are different. I've just used the Lumix cameras. But you can go from 2700 to say 10,000 or something like that. And what that does is allows you to make things look white even if to the eye it doesn't look white. So with cooler lights or like a blue light, you can adjust the sensor on the camera to kind of tone that down and bring the red and the green up to make that blue light look white. Or say you have an amber light that's more of a warm light, something kind of like a higher or a lower Kelvin number, you can adjust the sensors again to make that look white. So, daytime versus nighttime shooting. If you want white to look white, you have to adjust your white balance. And then another setting that you want to worry about is your shutter speed. And that's real important for video because there are kind of like some rules to it. It's called a 180-degree rule. And what that means is if you're shooting let's say you're shooting a cinematic video and it's in 24 frames per second, you want that shutter speed to be at 180 degrees. So what you want is the shutter to go off twice for every frame that you shoot. So you would want like a 48 shutter speed. And then say you're shooting in 60 frames, something a little bit higher frame rate, you would want like a 120 shutter speed. With a lot of cameras, like my Lumix cameras, I can actually set the shutter angle, so that way I can set it to 180 degrees, so that way no matter what I'm shooting in as far as frame rate, it will automatically adjust the shutter speed to where it needs to be. And then that also, if you can kind of play with, there's a little bit of freedom there. Say you're shooting some real fast stuff that you want to slow down and you want it to be real sharp. You can kind of play with the shutter speed a little bit just to get a real sharp image. But for the most part, if you're shooting any kind of cinematic thing or any kind of video, you want 180 degrees or pretty much double your frame rate for your shutter speed.
Everywhere that we go, people judging us, running up the
All right, so Get Your Weight Up is like an idea that me and Quick came up with. It's a series. Is what we're trying to make is a series, TV show, YouTube type thing, you know, just an episodic type thing. But the idea came from me and Quick just kind of hanging out at the house, and we knew, you know, me and him, we both were keeping track on the news and kind of what's going on, and we noticed that, you know, marijuana is getting legalized in these different states, and it's starting to become more acceptable. And so what we were trying to do is like, well, we were like,
when they legalize weed, we can get into the dispensary game like we always talked about for real.
just talking one day, we're like, well, what if we got into the dispensary game? Like, what if we found a way to get into that field and, you know, kind of just make some money off of it? But we learned that trying to do that type of thing, you need a lot of upfront capital, and you can't get loans from banks because it's not federally legal. So what you have to do is you have to have a lot of private backers and stuff like that. So you have to know some people with hundreds of thousands of dollars just willing to kind of throw it away for a little bit, and then so that way you can kind of build some stuff up and then start turning a profit. So we learned all this trying to kind of researching and doing everything and seeing how other people were doing stuff. So we were like, well, shit, you know, we really don't know anybody that's got this type of money just sitting there, you know, just waiting, you know, for somebody to use it. So what if, you know, we're making all these music videos and stuff like that. What if we shot a show like that where we kind of just take these group of people in a state that the marijuana gets legalized in, and then they try to get into the game as far as, you know, legally. And so what we wanted to do was kind of show the process and teach people what needs to happen for that type of thing to happen. And then also kind of educate people on some of the laws, because a lot of, personally, like once in Virginia when the law came out or was being voted on and everything, I read the bill myself. I don't know if you have, which I recommend you. It's State Bill 1406. You read it, it's got alcohol and tobacco in there with it, but it's like kind of all the laws on all of that stuff. 1406. But it's kind of got all the laws in there on that type of product. So I would definitely take a look at it and read it, so that way you know what you can and can't do. Because there was a lot of people, you know, when it was coming up, a lot of people got excited. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to do this. I'm like, look, you be careful when you're doing that stuff, because in the bill itself, it tells you what you can and can't do. Like, you know, we're also trying to have some fun with the show too. Like, just do kind of silly stuff, do, you know, comedic type stuff, but also, like, again, try to educate people on what it's like to just kind of break into that field. And that way, anybody that's kind of questioning or, you know, kind of, you know, wondering how you can do it, we might, you know, end up actually being a resource that you can watch our show, maybe give us a view, but also kind of learn what you need to do to forward your ventures. Other than, like, you know, the video stuff that we do, like my day job, I'm a mechanic. I work for a local supermarket chain working on their gas pumps. Like, I just maintain everything, you know, if something breaks, somebody pulls a hose off, or if, like, you know, the lights aren't working on their little canopy or something, I go fix all that stuff. If, you know, things aren't pumping, I fix it. I've been doing that for a long time. You know, I was doing that before. You know, I met Quick and Switch, doing that before, was doing videos and stuff like that. I've always been mechanically inclined when I was real young. Worked on my own cars, you know, worked at like some parts sales stores, selling, you know, slinging parts and stuff like that. But I've always been kind of mechanically inclined, kind of technical type person. So I think that's what kind of helped me with the video stuff, is being more of a technically minded person being able to pick up a camera and actually understand what everything does, because I know I can see systems, like I can break down systems in my head and like understand what's going on without being able to see the whole thing. I can kind of understand if you got this input and you got this output, like what's kind of going on in the middle, you know. And so that's, you know, I've done that pretty much my entire life. I grew up, my parents were mechanics. Dad was a roofer, my mom was a car mechanic, so I just came from that world as far as being technical and working with my hands and you know, just fixing shit. All right, so if you're coming up in the production game, first part I would tell you is learn your craft and understand what's going on, because what is going to happen is if you want to do a production at, you know, a higher level, you're going to need other people to be there with you. And to know that you're not getting bullshitted by somebody else, you need to know what's going on. Now, a lot of people like to talk a lot of shit, so they will big themselves up way more than what is actually going on. And if you understand the process and you understand what's going on, you'll be able to spot that, and you can either acknowledge it and run with it and still, you know, do your thing, or you can maybe back off a little bit and find somebody that's not going to do that type of thing. Also, you want to make sure your paperwork is straight, which a lot of people don't like to hear that, because, you know, I don't like doing paperwork. I don't like worrying about that type of stuff. I kind of want to just do the art part of it. But that's extremely important if you want to get paid. Especially if you want to get paid and you want to not have the IRS like on your shit. Say like you start making actual like high production videos and you don't have an LLC or a business license or something like that, and you're starting to gain, you know, a substantial amount of money. It's just like any type of tax evasion. You can maybe keep it on the low enough that, you know, they won't notice that you're spending this much money, but you're only making this much money. But for the most part, you want to have all your ducks in a row. Paperwork, all that shit, you want to be straight. Anything else you should know as far as, I don't know, what do you think? Yeah, so first off, know the shit, research, Google, fucking go to, if you got it like that, go to fucking school for the shit. The number two is fucking do your homework, have your paperwork straight, and then don't let nobody bullshit you. Fucking go do your thing. Before I let Quick get the fuck up out of here, so I don't take up too much of his time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say thank you to everybody that has ever watched any of the videos that we've ever worked on. Literally just giving us a view on like our YouTube page or Facebook, that helps us more than you could think it would. Watching our videos, you don't have to, I mean, if you want to comment on it, you want to like it, you want to show it to somebody else, like hell yeah, we appreciate that. But really just watching the videos and just showing that we got some sort of like traffic, some sort of movement happening is really helpful to us. So if you have done that in the past, thank you. If you were going to do it in the future, thank you. And hopefully we make something that you enjoy.
And we go on this road, blowing smoke, getting dough. And you know, this music speaks to free my mind and soul. Here we go, and we go on this road, blowing smoke, getting dough. And you know, this music speaks to free my mind.